much. Hi, everybody, the poets here and the people out there listening to us. It gives me incredible pleasure to welcome you to the Chair Poetry Evenings Festival of 2020. So, I'm the host, the Sutradhar, and my job is both to engage, introduce, and to be invisible. So, and I hope to balance that as well as as I'm able to. In these extraordinary times, when there is so much uncertainty in everybody's lives, poetry is proving to be both a balm and a window. Uh, and today's extraordinary lineup, all of you, it has no lack of sensitivity and fiestiness. And I, for one, am really, really excited. So, without any further ado, let's delve immediately into the poetry. Once we have finished the poetry readings, we can have a short conversation, all of us, on various aspects of whatever comes into our mind at that point of time. I hope that works with all of you. So, can I invite Nabina to come in and start the proceedings? So, let me give a very short introduction to Nabina. Nabina Das is an Indian poet from Guwahati, Assam, now in Hyderabad. She has authored 5 books of poetry and fiction. Her latest poetry collection is Sanskar Nama. She's a Charles Wallace Sangam House and Sahapedia UNESCO Fellowship alumna. More interestingly, her childhood was spent reading Kazi Nasrul, Kamla Das, Faiz, Tagore, and many more. She loves writing in places of chaos and upheaval, in railway stations while traveling in the metro train, while walking in a protest march, or even while teaching a class or in a workshop. Oh my God. So her latest book, Samskarnama, was written nearly on printed news reports. So there you have a very unusual poet with us. She writes, and I quote, because I feel that living on words and the experience they generate is an extra nourishment one can have other than just eating, sleeping, and living on. I scavenge and brood into the darkness of the heart and the world looking forward. Unquote. Please welcome Nabina Das. Nabina, the floor is yours. May I request everybody else to please mute their mics so that we can have a very clear proceeding. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah.
I think am I not unmute?
Yeah.
I am audible?
You're audible.
Okay, great. Okay, good evening, everybody. And I'm so privileged to be at Chair Poetry Evenings Readings today, which is supposed to be to have been held in Kolkata. But, I'm kind of mentally, trying to transport myself to Kolkata. And I know we are all from different places. And just to add a little bit to what Sunil said, I also write from places and spaces, and since we are all from different places and spaces, I think great way to be together, especially in these times when the pandemic taken over our lives. So and I want to thank Sonnet, who I don't see right now on the screen, but he has been around. He's like that omnipresent. Sunil is the Sutradhar, but Sonnet is a Greek god, I think, like pulling the strings to pay him a compliment. Yeah, right. Okay. So I'm going to read something. I'm not really prepared, but because as Sunil said, I write from places of chaos. I actually come from spaces of chaos too. And this is not saying it in a negative manner, but where things happen, there are upheavals, and it just seems to be a part of my life, my writing, the way I am like that, even in my domestic setting. So it is pretty much part of me. So today happens to be apparently Ritvik Ghatak's birthday, and it's a very significant day because my friends overseas in the US are all jittery and the votes are being counted, and there's a lot of political things happening, and I don't see politics separate from my work also, because like the cliche goes, the personal is political. So I'm going to start with an old poem, and from my book called Into the Migrant City. It came out from Writers Workshop, the famed Pilal, who's of course needs no introduction. So from Writers Workshop, it was published in 2000, I think 13, 14, something like that. So this poem is called No Country, No Names. The young girl in a sari was off to the library, her hands clasping books. She didn't see the truck crawl up behind her, stuffed with soldiers wearing helmets, false implants in the heart of that shell-shocked, macadamized Bengal town. Her face, a sorry storybook, quite a few pages on. When they found her by a garbage dump, stared at by that ancient panhandler, the poor bastard refused arrest, shouted abuses, trashed by the police. Young man heard the night before, show me your palm, the red henna peacock from the evening's activities, and she read him a poem about crocodiles and snare, until they fell asleep in each other's arms, dreaming there was a river, grass and flowers, shrouding its banks, its depths unknown, but easy for the rebels who could swim. The same night, Yahya Khan made quick plans to strike universities, where students were dancing to songs of Tagore. That was a night when nervous silence screamed on. His would-be bride was picked up and thrown, folding up maps that fooled didn't show a country of hearts. He left. A peacock mourned for her and him, no country yet for them. This is in the context of partition because my parents are from the partition generation. I've kind of grown up with their story of chaos and upheaval and remedial, rebuild of their lives. So it's a tribute to my parents' generation, to the partition, people, the frontline people, and to Ritvik Ghatak today. So I have around 10 or so minutes, right, Sunil? 10 or so minutes? Yeah, okay. The next poem is called Kam Aita. I'm born and brought up in Assam, in Guwahati, and I'm a Guwahati girl by all means. So I don't know what else to add to it because I think Guwahati girl itself has that rhythm and that feistiness, which gives us that special edge. And I'm going to claim it. And Aita means grandmother because once I was teased by a friend of mine when I was in college that you always write about grandmothers. I mean, like, what else would you write about? Is that all? For me, grandmothers, foremothers are the beacons. It's high time we speak about foremothers, right? So, Kam Aita, Kam Aita is the title of this poem. It's been long, we must discuss if we want radishes in this year's garden. In gourds climbing a common fence. Sure, you can have coriander too to sprinkle on the late afternoon meal. Bhoot jalokia that no one will eat. The army fancies it now, we are told. The newspapers have it, tea shops get their fortune told. Kamaita, let's talk about the pigs and the calves born this year, the ducks that won't stop chasing the hens even if you yell. About the corner shop Bipin, I'm not sure. Whose ma died crying for him in the forest, Aita. They say to become an insurgent, but the mother said to find the dog get mangy coat. To those stories, Aita, my answers are slippery feet on oil. Come, Aita, let's walk down the paddy lanes just till the town bus stand. You wait here for Aunt Moromi. I can tell you a slum won't sell cheap, even if you swear on the hungry mouth floods, 4-second huts and fungal pots and pans we won't ever throw away. And if you wonder why the one-eyed Hare Krishna didn't return from the big market of Ganeshguri, no ID, no whereabouts, only torn limbs. Aita, I swear on my loveless luck, I'll have to invent a new fairy tale. So that was from
that was
my
amazing. That was amazing.
Thank you very much. I'm going to read one poem from my very first book, and that is Vessel. And was published in Denmark, and I don't really have copies. And I feel whenever people want to buy, I keep saying, well, I just have my own copy. One second. This is also Assam themed, more or less in the strain of Kamaita. It's called a song for the Bihu Wasted Sister. Bihu, we all know, it's one of the major festivals of Assam, and there are three Bihus mainly that we follow. And this is time for Kati Bihu because it's the month of Kartik. Kartik is when we basically save the grains and light lamps for ancestors. And but there is another Bihu which is full of merriment, which is the spring Bihu. So this refers to the spring Bihu when spring is come with flowers and new grains, and things are sprouting everywhere. But there is something dark behind it. And Bihu wasted is a word I coined for the kind of move they do in a Bihu dance where they have to move do a waist movement. A song for the Bihu wasted sister. Sister, it's the day the earth's rising to touch your waist, your wants, your wasted smile. But where do you go, my dancers, when the orchids bloom and cows bathe at dawn? That serpentine hair has seen nights sighed for your lover who's gone to the camps of fatigue, wearing boot-trotting wilderness in his heart. Sister, show me your wristband of silver, O dancers. Show me the moon-hung pendant of the libidinous neck. Show me that move. Strike those breasts out of sadness. Do. Sister, it's the day the paddy is washed before offering. Something about the flame trees tell us birds are still home, but it's also the news of someone missing. The brass plate of sesame candies coating ants. Another day at the post office. They know you by now. Oh, sister, your arrow shoot of eyes, your bitter leaf face, tell me who'll come taste your love, your lilt, your innocent lust. Okay.
Wonderful.
Thank you. So now I'm going to read again because it's we are in very hard times, not just in terms of pandemic, but there is another kind of pandemic, another various kind of pandemics that are happening around the world. Poverty doesn't go away, hunger doesn't go away, child abuse, women's conditions. So I feel these are so important to look around. If as a poet I didn't reveal these things, I would feel I failed in my mission. I'm not here to write pretty words. So one of my favorite American poets, Dorian Lau, and I got really very impressed by a poem she wrote called Kissing. So I took her permission later on and told her I wrote a poem called They Are Kissing. And sorry, there's a light that's so They Are Kissing is absolutely about my context, our context, the way we are in India. And this refers to my, this is for my support to my friends in Kashmir, for my friends in Northeast, for my friends in Telangana, Jharkhand. Currently, I'm in Telangana. So it's very important for me to voice this poem. It's called They Are Kissing. They are kissing at gunpoint. They know they cannot be caught kissing. They are kissing as though the Chinars never saw any bloodshed, only lipstick. Asifa is grown up now. She's kissing her love and her horses are dancing. The grass is erupting in joy. The valley is rushing in its unviolated grace because they are kissing. They are kissing. They are kissing on a country boat, thick over the roaring flood. They're making the char silt turn alabaster under their starry eyes and swoon. They're humming their old Mia songs, calling out their firebirds and ghosts, slapping the fish smells onto their tongues, and they are simply kissing. They're kissing because they do not want to become burnt flesh, lynched bodies, severed, mangled limbs, but they want to become one. Junaid, wearing back his skull cap, is kissing his heartthrob. Ishrat Jahan, pulling down her bullet-ridden kurta, is kissing her Prince Charming in this fairy tale. Lips honey, tongue all roses. They are kissing in faraway Majid Bhita, Imphal, Anantnag, Kandamal, railway platforms, bus stops, parks, chai shops. city streets, your carefully manicured lawns, and gated naked neighborhoods. They are kissing before the next pellet gun blinds another school kid, before the next attack maims that dreamy cowherd, the next brute snatch away the body, the heartbeat, the tears. It's their rage. It's their beautiful longing for a clear sky. It's their hands becoming tree branches. It's their torsos turning summer's fireflies. It's their mouths free to kiss and speak. It's their saliva tasting love's warm rice. They're kissing right now in Unnao, in Khammam, in Kunan Poshpora. They're kissing on the beach in between these smudgy words and ink stains because it is their only rebellion, only region, only map, their only religion. For God's sake, shut your mouth now, for they are simply kissing.
Later, I have to ask you about what is there in the Assam air and the food which makes you write with such power.
I think I mentioned all the food out here. Okay, so I'm coming down to read something more recent. I wrote a 3-series poem for publication, so I'm going to read only one part, and it's called. I wrote it as air, water, earth. So I'll read the last part, and this is especially in the pandemic, under lockdown, in isolation, what air, water, earth have come to mean for us. How do we look at it? So this is just the last part because it becomes too long otherwise. So earth. Truth be told, I'm tired seeing pictures of anointed flowers, well manicured private gardens, common birds at uncommon hours, and dishes dazzling like diamonds on people's tables. I see the same flowers, the birds, the plates glittering on my curve of dailiness, an unsettling mirage on the senses. I want to see the unseen. What of those things invisible, where no one touched, no one was seen, and no one spoke to anyone at all? The face a mask, the eyes are probes, and the tongue a scanner for all words unsaid. Perhaps this earth will imprint itself all that on my belly, feel the sag each muscle layer records when we measure our own ailment, as though recurring seismic circles. Perhaps the summer-ridden soil will feel the body's gone cold in its wraps while we watch buds flowering, unswept petals on landscapes like heartaches. I want to bend down and once, just once, touch the ground. Perhaps it's all imagination, but it's also to atone for the lack of touch we have inherited. Along with it, the sudden eye for flowers, trees, and the tedious world in mourning. Okay, if I have a couple more minutes, I'm going to read from my latest book, Sanskarnama, published from Red River. And this was written really very quickly. I'm not very pleased with that idea, but sort of, very, it's my reaction to a lot of current things that's been going around with us. And that's sort of peaking right now as we are facing two different kinds of lockdowns, political lockdown, freedom of speech lockdown, the malady that's going around, that kind of lockdown. But when I read this poem from Sanskarnama to a group of college students in the university students, they sort of laughed a lot and took it in good spirits, I'm hoping. It's called My Neighbor is a Gorakshak. My neighbor is a Gorakshak. Everyone has a Gorakshak neighbor these days. Not everyone knows what they look like. We say, Happy Diwali, Sarji, and how's the weather today? Wheat cake. Madam Ji makes sharbat when we meet. I could even have a lover who's a Gorakshak so tender that he keeps me from all untowardness of nights. Our Gorakshak neighbor wears branded jeans. He hates Chinese goods, but flaunts a Swiss watch. She too likes kitty parties where Ramdev Churan churns, Zara scarves with Kolhapuri sandals for the ladies, kyunki, after all, Musalmanon mein hunar to hai hi na, for art and craft. Thus my Gorakshak friends make light of life. When we meet, we say pleasantries like the rain until my inshallah waterlogs their ears. They seem stunned. You Januwalas are like that only, na? They say, little wanton, little awara, somewhat misfit. Still, I recite bhakti poetry to placate the bhakts. Our Gorakshak neighbor asserts Hindu khatre mein hai. The sky is saffron. The cow mothers turn plastic bags to manna. Our conversation span all greatness of Bharat Mata Shri. Then Nirvana becomes a Bengali mithai. He offers me with tea.
That was awesome.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Assam again. I think I'm missing Assam also because I just can't travel at the drop of a hat. I've had lots of invitations, but I can't just buy a ticket and go. Although we can go technically, but for several reasons.
So
This
this would
one
be a
was,
last one. This would be a last one.
yeah, if you think so.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
if
that'll be
you
fine.
want a tiny one later, I can do it. So this is
Okay.
called Namami. It's written after a particular project that the government initiated in Assam, the state government. It's called Namami Brahmaputra. So Brahmaputra, as you know, is the big man river, and it just has a lot of myths associated with it, stories, etc. So the government project was supposed to pay a tribute, but it used lots of taxpayers' money. And right after Namami Brahmaputra, there was a big flood. So nothing really happened for the benefit of people. The river has descended on our conversation. The river needs no name, no evocation. Its daybreaks and evenings are silked along its roots. Hyacinths float up to its fairy span, and everything is folding in for the man river. Its red eyes and tears, everything is what they are bending down to cleanse. Each palmful of water losing its sparkle in the din, the flotsam too frothy and fickle to be called a blessing, to be offered a chant. Namami, Namami, Namami. The chorus, anyway, doesn't save the dolphins of twilight. The flood still rages forward carrying plastic bags, discarded condoms, the surf of human excreta, dead cattle, and the elixir of waste dripping from our human errors, one drop by one drop by one. Namami, Namami, Namami. The chant doesn't raise the dead children, their eyes water-soaked pale flowers, their teeth clotted in the water's rush, seeking mother's arms. They need no evocation, no chants. The river needs no arms. It needs only a daybreak, only a course to flow as freedom does, singing, it is me, it is me, it is me. Thank you.
Wonderful. So that was incredible. I mean, I have so many things to ask you as we go along. We will. And thank you so much, Nabina. That was powerful, really powerful.
Thank you, sir.
I would now request Mr. A.J. Thomas to come on. Let me give a short introduction for Thomas, sir. He was born in Kerala, in the foothills of the Western Ghats in the valley of Mount Ilikan. I hope I got the pronunciation right.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Super. So when he moved from his hill hamlet, Mitchell, to work with Kerala Tourism Department Corporation, he had the opportunity to see and meet writers like Dominique Lapierre, Salman Rushdie, M.T. Vasudevan Nair, all of who really inspired him. He became an amazing translator and won the Katha Award and the Vodafone Crossword Book Awards for acclaimed translated books. He begins to write at 4 a.m. in the morning and finishes by 7 a.m. He says, writing lifts my spirit, it empties me, it exhilarates me. His own study in Delhi is the best place for him to write, and he says, quote, Delhi is a place where one could do anything, but it's not anyone's. One doesn't belong here. It's like an ocean that throws off everything it takes in. Mr. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sunil ji. I would like to thank Sonet, who organizes this wonderful festival, and also Sunil, the Sutradhar, and my friends. We have only four of us here, all of us know each other. And I will begin with a love poem of sorts. It is titled Shurpanakha. You know Shurpanakha? Ravan's soul sister, the only sister of Ravan. She was in love with Ram. You know the whole story from the Ramayana, but here is another 21st century twist to it. Shurpanakha. My enticing smile, alas, reveals only my fangs. My enamored fondling of your winsome shoulder are but scratches with my talent. My love-burned eyes turn into two blazing embers. My bosom aquiver with passion for you reveal only my hirsute heats. How am I to love you, Rama, with all these treacherous exteriors? My love for you is the yearning for the eternal you, with a capital Y, because she sees Rama as Parama, as one absolute Godhead. But this is how I am defined. And you, of all people, spurn me? You are all seeing, aren't you? How come you can't see my heart burning in Panchagni, yearning for union with you? Your petite wife, whom you call half your body and soul, will soon turn fickle and jump out of the circle your slave brother has confined her in on your behalf. You can't spurn femininity and get away with it. I am Shurpanakha, the soul sister of the conqueror of heaven and earth, yet I fail in front of you, Rama. The molten lava of my tears will engulf your epic in flames of devastation. That was Shurpanakha.
Wonderful. That was interesting, really interesting.
That is a very, very soft love poem after this very, flaming one. Yeah. This is titled Offering. I am a wide expanse, pasture most green and lush. Forage on me, frolic on me, get absorbed in the silence of the open skies above, standing motionless on me. I won't deny you anything, and I don't seek anything, and yet your hyper presence thrills me from end to end. That is an antidote. So I'll read the Delhi poem from which you quoted just now. This is a little long, but it's fine. This is a
Sure.
poem which I started writing in, it covers the period from 1995 to 2010. I began writing it around 2005. And the poem is divided into three parts. The first part is 1995 to 2005. First part. The first time I saw you in November 95, shrouded in prickly mist, the street lamp's veiled glow of a demon's eyes, his horrid whiskers, the darkened tree, the moon-chilling blast, his hellish breath, spewing carbon monoxide, soot and SPM, poisoning my prana, I said, I will never come to you if I can help it. And I boasted so to my friend. Still you claimed me as your own, karma's dragging me here to expiate crimes of past Denmark. Yet I learned to love you, and I put up with your vagaries, your culture as fickle as your weather, the daily influx of impoverished hordes from all directions churning in, the hourly shifting cold depending on the snowfall in Himachal, the arid winds driving in the dust clouds from Rajputana for the armed. Now you suck me dry and wax in your glory, proud of your metro line, high rises, shopping malls, world-class housing complexes, and hosting international events. Yet I don't forget, you are the battlefield where parricide, fratricide, thrived and still thrive. City of tombs and graveyards. Are the budding flowers in your sprawling gardens allurement to unsuspecting children? Do I hear the crunching of bones as you relish your glory repast? I wrote these lines years before Nitari happened. You know what Nitari is. Or has Mahakala chosen you as his instrument of dissolution? Here I am, perpetually in your ensnaring embrace. Even when your auto rickshaw drivers grab and pillage and revile me, I am eternally patient. I know I have to live out my karmas without rancor, impeccably. Part 2 is between 2005 and 2008. So I recited the first part of this poem to an audience of elderly Delhi authors, many of them expatriates from different corners of India. All of them, down to the last one, admonished me, pleaded with me, pitied me, saying that I missed out on the great Rajasic city that Delhi is, that one can accomplish anything here, that the Mahabharata war was possible only here, that the zest for life here is so vibrant, that once you get settled here, you cannot feel happy anywhere else. That this is a great tapasa bhumi where over thousands of years, rishis and yogis exist in ethereal form and body as well, and where great saints like Nizamuddin Auliya are lying entombed. That one has to have accumulated many lives of punya to be able to live in Delhi. That houses here need not observe the laws of Vastu, as every inch of the earth in Delhi is auspicious. The truth may lie somewhere else in between. Indeed, Delhi to me is a place where one could do anything. But it is not anyone's. One doesn't belong here. It's at once like an ocean that throws up everything it takes, and like a volcano that consumes anything thrown in. Now, the third part is written between 2008 and 2010. I was in Libya at the time, expatriate. I was teaching English there in a university. So I lived there for 6 years, but these are the 2008 to 10, the first 2 years. Away from Delhi, 7 seasons now, it grows in me as a haunting presence. The glimpses I have of her film, the glimpses I have of her in films like Delhi 6 and the occasional news clip, the frequent talks with my wife and daughter about city's almost palpable daily transformation put me in a state of yearning. Strange indeed, I find that I have been loving Delhi all along, and now I have finally recognized my love. So that is Delhi for you.
So actually, it was 3 love stories.
Yeah, how much of time do I have? I have a long poem on Bengal, which I will not read entirely. I will read only the beginning and end. You know, this is also in 3 parts.
That should be good.
I will read that. Yeah,
that should be good.
It's titled Bengal in My Blood. The first part begins like this. The great river with its muddied stream, the color of mixed decanted tea, loomed up like a ghost through a rent in the clouds as the plane prepared to land. Bengal throbs in my heart. The thread like rain falling without stop is the connection between heaven and the earth. Down on the ground, misery, want, and uncouth inefficiency quicken my daily wrath. I fail, groping for the words of a language I lost decades ago. Lisp and try haggling with the taximan to no avail. But it's unbelievably cheap as it turns out. What turns me off is the sight of man-pulled rickshaws and the veins that laid out from the heart of Calcutta. 3 decades and more of humane government. Intransigence, complacency, egotism, arrogance, mediocrity, apathy, sloth, set against the brazen inhumanity of the new ivory towers of the MNCs, choke. The food is leaden on my palate. The fear of cholera forbids my thirst. Dakshineshwar beckons me, Kalima blesses me. The great temples of art and learning, the icons of the nation, reassure me. This is our Bengal, our Kolkata. Take heart. So I'll go to the last part now. I'll cut out the long story. 4 decades later, a visit in driving rain and sleet to this haven, green in memory, and oft visited in dreams and reveries of the years as the heart quickened in nostalgic anticipation. The house no more, only the building remained, the ancient venerable Bandel church facelifted into a gaudy, garish basilica, the Maidan shrunken, decrepit. A priest years junior to me in the house, fearful, hesitant to offer bonhomie. The rivers in white still irresistible. The path that led to the river bank fleshy. The sticky mud hugging the shoes. The tiny fishing village with cute black boats tucked away in the inlet stream. The greenery of banana trees, colocaceas, mango trees, and drumstick trees. The misery of the shacks and hovels, all unchanged, in spite of the few new terraced buildings. The road to the station is the same the lump in the throat that rose as I left on a cycle rickshaw for the station 4 decades ago. The heart of Bengal still draws me close. The squalor and hopelessness of villages and towns and the metropolitan streets of Kolkata save for me a familiar wag of humanity's tail. I, like Yudhishthira, look towards it, the end of trials and tribulations. As I wrote in 2008, I was in Mandel on the banks of the Hooghly from 70, 70 to 72. So these are my impressions of that time, and it's the story that came out of it. And
Wonderful.
The long story I cut out because it's a very long story. It's not
Sure.
proper for reading out in a platform like this. So I will go to another Bengal side. It is Tagore's kitchen. Visiting Takurbari, Tagore's ancestral mansion at Jorosango, my instincts pulled me back from being a snob. Going around the various halls and galleries, my glance tripping and falling of many memorabilia, resisting and trying to ignore the apparently daily dose of the chorus of Rabindra Sangeet emanating from the auditorium. Passing by the relics of the poet's Japanese page, finally I came to the Angar Mahal, the Zenana. Tagore has written so much about stories. The kitchen has been preserved intact, the utensils, the fireplace, the sink, the cutlery, crockery, even the ones with broken handle, chipped rim. I couldn't help wondering how the women of the Tagore household must have managed to feed the hundreds of guests every day. That is Tagore's kitchen. I will read another poem quickly. It's titled Trees. Trees. Still, tranquil figures standing in their solemn majesty, the morning chill. The LNG, dense, dark green, the neem, tall, looking up to the heavens, each leaf a marble in sculpted perfection. The palms, their frilled umbrellas spread, the mulberry, its yellowing leaves falling, yet a shivering bird or two perched on its skeletal twig. The champak, its many tongues a quiver in a silent song. The people, its green hearts, ever ready to ferry a baby Krishna in any deluge. A stray dog curled up closely, fast its way. Only humans buzz about in their myriad vehicles, the lesser ones trudging along in bundles of woolen, restless to gather a morsel and a little more. Trees stand carefree, trusting providence, getting everything where they are in their calm dignity. I'll read a poem from my Libya days. It's the Ramadan.
Could we have
Ramadan
this
night.
as the last one? Then what we'll do,
Yeah.
we'll do a full round and then come back if we have time.
Yeah,
That will be wonderful.
I'll just finish this Ramadan
Absolutely.
and I'll just leave this. Okay, Ramadan. On the terrace at night, the city sprawls all around. The many minarets and towers bristle skyward from an otherwise sedate cityscape. I sit drinking in the city lights,
We're not going to have time.
Lights and sound rising from the street below. Boys cycling, some running about, toddlers crawling in the square at midnight among the teeming cars and residents during the fasting, purified month of Ramadan, night after night, watching the sickle moon wax in full moon and then wane into the nothingness of hidden energy to show up again as a faint curved line, seeing which the devout here, that means one and all, celebrate Eid. Here, religion and spirituality experienced intimately and community-wise both fuse the individual into the best of togetherness, with God, with others, with everything here to one, preparing themselves for the autumn and winter months, with a body cleansed of all impurities and mind tuned to the best of cosmic dispatch. So I'll sign off here now. If there is anything more, we will talk about.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. You've taken us into the soul of so many cities. It's
Thank
so cinematic and it's so wonderful. Thank you so
Thank you.
much,
Thank
Thomas.
you. Thank you.
I see Priya has disappeared. So let me introduce her whilst she's away and then we can have her back. So Priya Sarukkai Chabria is an Indian poet known for her radical aesthetics and she's a novelist. She's the author of Not Springtime Yet, as also the translation of the songs of the 8th century Tamil poet Andal, which won the 2017 Music India Translation Award. She edits poetry at Sangam, and her latest book, Clone, has been described as wondrous. She has been awarded by the Indian government for her outstanding contribution to literature, and her work is translated into several languages. And as if that was not enough, she has also co-founded the Silent Film Society, Friends of the Archive. That's intriguing. Probably we'll get into it when we talk more. Priya, the floor is yours. Uh-oh. She seems to have frozen.
Thank you.
Priya, please. Yes, great to hear your voice.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're frozen. So
now?
probably the net
Thank
is.
you. Thank you for inviting me here.
Absolutely, please.
A little unstable. Yeah?
What you can do,
Now?
you can put off the video.
Yeah.
Then what happens? The audio comes out strong. So probably for the length of the time you read out the poetry, we can have the video off. So we'll have a seamless experience then.
Okay.
Yep, that works.
Yeah?
Yep.
But let me just try it again with a start video.
Sure.
Yeah? Can you see me now? No.
No, not yet.
Oh dear. Okay. Now, not yet. I'm going to read without this then because I don't know what.
Yes, you're back.
It's most unfortunate.
We can see the visual.
There. Okay. Yeah. So, right. So I'll quickly begin and tell me if I'm overrunning my time. Okay.
Sure.
Now, the first poem I'd read is one called Bank. And this was a commission poem. And normally I don't do quick commissions. I sleep over my poems, but I just found that, yes, I could write this. Suddenly, just 2 days before giving it in. So this is Bank, a lockdown poem. Child, will the rivers run, not with poison, but deep and blue for you, swift with dolphins, splashed with hope? Will bees hum amber hymns of swollen pollen to you who stands on the other shore? Past the disharmony of worlds, spirits which swarm this bank from which I peer? Will parrots sing the sky together in emerald strands while we turn to sleep? Will you no longer be like those before? Steel armadillos, fist curled in cruelties, thirst, atrocities. We banked on the certitudes of the bank, which was dissolved by an enemy self-created, small and vast as love should be. Child, as you look upon each other and others too numerous to count, will your feelings be tender as dawn air that cools our sleepless cheeks? We stand bare-eyed, rooted in insecurities. But I say to you this with no inconsistency: it's never too late to vision yourself and the world anew. That's what we are trying to do as it breaks on us that we're standing muddy-toed at the Tirth all along. And now the second poem I shall read is not, thank you, is not from a poetry book, but actually from my speculative fiction, which you mentioned, Sunil, Clone. And this is called, Which War Are You Speaking Of, My Friend? Which war are you speaking of, my friends? The one in Hiroshima, New York, Syria? These naked wars, brains oozing like slush on the path of ascendancy? It's remote, you say, and televised. Come closer home then. Which bloody Kurukshetra do you wish to speak of, friend? Come on, tell me. The war against the earth? This one perhaps? This taking without giving, defenses up? Think only of today, not the red rot of mines, of tree sap and coral, of dragonfly wings burning. Who's to win this round? It's everywhere, you say. No one wins this round. All right. Do you mean the tribals, Kurukshetra? Or the blind beggars? But shh, it's indecent to speak of the unfortunate. But we're speaking of war, aren't we? Of stakes, blood, death, the seeping of consciousness through cracks in the soul as we walk forward. We're speaking of atrocities, my friend, gladiator. Come home. Which war are you speaking of, my friend? Ah, I understand. You're speaking of you and me, this slaughtering, this meager giving and taking with battle lines drawn, this ancient trench warfare, guts draining into the trench that is you and me. I'm mistaken again, am I? You are speaking of the red rot oozing from your brain, your hatred, your hopeless maneuvers against death, and your helpless defeat. You're speaking of your war against life, with battle lines drawn against the enemy, yourself. Which war are you speaking of, my friends? Which war? And now I go to quite a different track. I go to travel poems.
It was intriguing, but
Thank you. And this is actually from my newest poetry collection, Calling Over Water came out, I think, late last year, early this year. This is the new one. And these have a lot of travel poems. And this is one from China when we did the Buddhist trail from, Beijing, no, Xi'an really, right down to the Taklamakan Desert.
okay, wonderful.
And this is Grand Mosque, Xi'an. Lacquered in late afternoon light, the ancient mosque constellates as a sacred chameleon sourced from mingled memory, Turki, Chini. The old desert dream of water surfaces as turquoise tiles. The surge of the dragon sheens its winged roof of glaze. Here, peace emanates through the proportions of courtyards, clipped shrubs, stippled carp in stone basins, fallen light, and carved calligraphy in lapis lazuli. Allahu Akbar. The call to prayer is inflected in Mandarin. Here, the hunting heart quells its hungers. The unfamiliar is welcomed home through beauty. Thank you.
Wonderful, beautiful.
Thank you.
That is so beautiful.
Thank you. And this is closer home, one called Sundarbans. I haven't been to Calcutta in many years except for a quick dash trip to do something for the Tata Trust, the cancer hospital, and a quick masterclass for a publishing house. And I zoomed out, but this is actually a response to photographs by Karthik Subramaniam for a journal called Pics, Sundarbans. Everything here glimmers on the verge that pours into sky, river, tree, drifting boat. Everything is everything else here. Sea, that's earth. Smooth flowing water, that's the sky's cosmic river. Stars that are six-petal firefly flowers. Round blessings of heaven's fragilities. Here, everything is anchored on the verge. The boat that's empty is filled with drift and silence. Hear it as insects fall as comets, as life clings on. It's the gloaming of possibilities. A boy of stone dreams of two suns in his life. A man of smoke wonders about fish and prayer. A woman of soil wades into light. She'll dissolve as memory is sieved through life's tremble. And here's a tiger you don't see, the one that stalks you, the tiger of your mind that kills.
Wow.
Thank you.
We can have a last one, and then we will go to Nilim, and if time remains, we'll come back.
Yes,
sure.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
And I'll quickly read a couple of stanzas from my translation of classical Tamil.
That'd be wonderful.
Thank you so much. Andal, the 9th century, 15-year-old Bhakti poet who sang of the body sacred and the body sensuous, which filled and overflows with her. And for her, like Mirabai, who comes 7 centuries after her, she sings to Narayana, especially Krishna. And Krishna is her lover in a very physical sense too. And in this song, The Grove of My Land, of my Lord, she contrasts her pining, her vulnerable state with the splendor of the grove. And of course, everything reminds her of Krishna, her beloved, even as she pleads to them for help. So this is Andal, 15 years old. Look, she says, ruby beads the grove's wet emerald, as ladybirds return, heralding the monsoon that heralds my beloved's return, as my blood beats herald, one seeking his ocean with Mount Mandara to make it yield its jewel Shri. I yielded all when he churned me. I swoon, remembering his broad shoulders on which I rested tresses, my full faith. How can I escape such splendor and still breathe? Young elephants tussle below profuse flowers. Night's white jasmines burst open like sudden smiles, while my passion swirls higher than their twirling tendrils. Against twilight's darkening, wild jasmine buds rupture like laughter, mocking my rapture. Oh, his smile. My sorrow deepens, my vigil drags. I flower, exploding, recalling his cool tulsi garland. Friend, when his imminence causes my gloom, to whom can I complain? Tell. Thank you.
My God, that was powerful. I think the
Thank
word
you.
I take away from there is rapture. I think that sums it up so well.
That is Andal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Priya. That was awesome. Really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We move to Nilim. I hope he's there. Yeah, great. I can see his audio coming on, coming off. So Nilim Kumar is one of the most super great. Good to have you here. Nilim is one of the most popular poets of contemporary Assamese literature. He has published a total of 17 collections of poems, last that I counted. He has also authored a number of novels. He's recipient of several awards, such as the Raza Foundation Award. His works have been translated into several languages, including Spanish and Manipuri. He works out of Guwahati, Assam. His poem, Akhon Oshusto City Bus, created waves and showed how poetry can create commentaries even now. So we will talk about that later. Nilim, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. Now I want to read my poems in first time in Assamese, then 2 or 3 in English. আধৰুৱা প্ৰেম আমাৰ প্ৰেম শেষ হোৱাৰ আগতেই আমি মৰিম আমাৰ মৃতদেহ কোনেও বিচাৰি নাপাব মই নেদেখিম তোমাৰ মৃতদেহ তুমি নেদেখিবা মোৰ মৃতদেহ আমাৰ মৃত্যুৰ পিছত আধৰুৱা প্ৰেমে আমাক বিচাৰি থাকিব সেই আধৰুৱা প্ৰেমে বিচাৰিব আমাৰ নামত দুটি গোলাপ হ'বলৈ দুটি চৰাই হ'বলৈ দুটি তৰা হ'বলৈ কিন্তু ঘাহৰ পাত এটাও গজাব নোৱাৰিব আমাৰ আধৰুৱা প্ৰেমে চৌদিশে ইমান মৃত্যুৰ মাজত আমাৰ আৰু একো ইচ্ছা নাথাকিব ইজনে সিজনক মনত ৰাখিবলৈ কোন আছিলো মই কোন আছিলা তুমি মৃত্যুৱে আমাৰ প্ৰেমৰ নাম থব লুকাভাকু নামৰ এটা খেলা আমাৰ প্ৰেম শেষ হোৱাৰ আগতেই আমি মৰিম নে প্ৰেমত পৰাৰ আগতেই মৰিম আমি then English translation
Beautiful.
half done love we would die before our love would come to an end no one would see our corpse I won't see your corpse you won't see mine either after our deed we would be sought out by the half-done love in our name half-done love would seek to turn into two roses to birds to stars but our half-done love cannot even sprout a leaf of grass seeing this deed of all around we won't have any wish left to remember each other who was I who were you death would keep a name of our love a game named hide and seek we would die before our love would come to an end or would die before falling in love
Wonderful.
then another one poem the old poem it is wave Waves are rising in the water, silvery golden waves. Waves are becoming peace. Waves are moving upstream. The men were picking the waves with nets and traps. Baskets are full with waves. The blood of waves stains the dressing knives. Waves are a glitter. Waves are a glitter with the hue of salt and turmeric. Women are cooking the waves in midday. Waves are filling the cups. Waves are entering the stomachs of men like an impossible poem, golden silvery waves. Another small poem, temporal sky. The sky is in every human heart. The sky is in every human heart, but no one turns his head inside to look at it. Those who fall in love may suddenly see that sky in their heart. Of course, that sky is but a temporal one. Another small poem. This is Radha. This is Radha, dead. I smear nail polish on her cool nails, sharply red. Then another poem, Rent House. In one of the room of mine, he sits and studies. In another one, he dines. In one of them, he sings, sleeps in the other. He rents all the four rooms of my heart. He is none but sorrow. Then one poem, Empty House. When people venture out of house, locking it up, the empty house wept. The family of the house is limited, living in the house. But the family of the house more lives in outside the house. The house with its tiny heart, tiny arms, longs for conversation of people, laughter, cries, sounds of footsteps, buzz of love, silence, music of lovemaking. These are the things for which people build houses. The empty house ponders with its tiny brains. When people venture out, house locking it up, the empty house wept. Thank you.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. That was absolutely wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so
Time
much.
is over. It is 7:32.
Super. So we can do two things. We can have a quick conversation, or if anybody has a poem which is bursting to come out, we can do a quick one there also. Uh, any thoughts on that? So anybody? Nabina's got her hand up. You want a poem out? Or you want a conversation?
What I wanted to say is the 6 city bus which you referred to, Oshusto, Ekhon Husto city bus, I translated it for him, which was published in a Shillong-based independent journal called Rayot. So I don't know, he didn't read it. So I thought I'd read it for him.
Oh, wonderful. That'll be a wonderful, wonderful thing. And we can have a quick conversation on that also then.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to read, really not a long.
Thank you, Nabina.
Also, perhaps that, all of us are speaking of rivers in some way, waves and waters, whether silvery and golden or just muddy, but waves and rivers. And isn't it the river of poetry that's flowing there?
I know. And a wonderful one. And it's stopping at various places, and we are seeing sights from there, which is so different but so similar.
Very true.
Yeah. Nabina, please shoot.
So Nilim, I'm going to read your poem in my translation, the one that brought a lot of conversation, and people were really angry for no reason. So let me read the poem, and then if you want a discussion, we could still.
Can you, because there are certain references there, so maybe you could give the names which are there, which might not be familiar to everybody. So would you like to just describe it first, so the reference to the poems settles in much better? We've lost her.
Yeah.
Okay. It's almost a poetic freeze, if you ask me. So she's actually frozen herself very poetically. We could do an impromptu poem on that freeze of hers.
Well, I don't have that poem on a freeze, but till she comes back, maybe one could do a short poem on a grove.
Please, sure.
It's called The Grove, Electricity Breakdown. This is from my second book, Electricity Breakdown. I write in longhand and the candlelights dance. Beyond the desk on white terrace tiles, steady moonlight spills between leaf shadows. Though shadow I am, will I learn not to flicker, but shine.
Oh my
Thank you.
God. That
Thank
was so beautiful.
Thank you.
Loved that. Loved that.
Thank you.
Okay, whilst we wait for her, could I ask both you and Thomas sir and Nilim, of course, how much does the city you stay in, or the city which resides in you, all of us have a favorite city, even if we might not live in it, how much does a city affect the work which you people do, the poetry you write? Say, for example, Thomas sir, you said that Delhi is something which is a favorite poem, a place of yours. Would you be a different poet if you were staying in Calcutta, for example? You might like to unmute yourself.
I don't really think so, because poetry is there in any case. So it will be a kind of reflection. You're looking at a mirror kind of thing. Whatever is there inside you will get reflected. It will just beam out and come back. So there is a process of making a poem in things
Okay.
won't be different. I have lived in near Calcutta also for 2 years. That is when the memories of that time. Though I was
Dandel,
living
yeah.
in Delhi, so this physical space, physical space doesn't count that much. It is all your inner space. It's all your inner self that's working.
Okay.
So wherever you are, even if you're on the South Pole, you will write whatever you want to write. This kind of
Okay.
thing. It's like the great Bart said. It's like emotions collected in tranquility. Essentially it is that. So
Right.
you don't react
Right.
right on, but you will reflect. And that's
Okay.
how it.
The reference I was giving was, for example, Delhi is a more muscular place, for example, in Kolkata. I'm
It's a
just
Rajas.
giving a,
It's a Rajasic city. So
yes.
being there, the struggle is more, of course. But in Calcutta, it's another kind of struggle. I've been both. So
Okay, fair enough.
It's all struggling.
May I
Priya, any
So-
thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a more human kind of place. It's a very human kind of place in Kolkata that I feel my bones. Yeah.
Yes,
well,
Priya.
my point is, I come from a position which is diametrically opposite AJ's, because everything, the light, the movement of the waves, the color of the leaves outside, everything affects my writing. I know that I was living in Bombay for years and years and years, where we had the sea view. And I think, looking back, You know, the sentences were brisk. My movement of thought was brisker. I came to Pune, and the first place we stayed in had a plateau outside the window, a bare plateau, and I couldn't write. Then I moved to this place with a lot of trees. You can see some.
Yeah.
And the writing started again, but these were slower rhythms. These were the rhythms of the season that took over. And of course, I miss Bombay, and that came out as a non-fiction book with the photographer, Christopher Mark Taylor, called Bombay Mumbai Immersions. It was a tribute to that, but light, space, the sound, what are the birds you're hearing? All that, I think, impinges. Of course, you write from a deep place inside. I miss Madras. I carry it with me. But if I was living there, I think I would be writing. My oral and visual senses, my sense of color, even perhaps the breadth of my poems would be different.
Right. Nabina, actually, and Nilim, we were just discussing the effect a place has, and it'd be very appropriate to ask both of you, because both of you have Assam in your blood. And what is the culture of Assamese literature, the poetry? Is it seeped in politics and awareness of what's happening? Because both of you have a lot of impact of that in your poetry. So would you say that it's because it's Assam that this is there?
I think Nilim is a better person to comment on the literary, tradition of Assam, because he's been writing longer than I am, and not because he's older than me. But he's sort of also, he writes in the language, and I used to write in Assamese before, but I have kind of like organically, seamlessly moved into writing in English. But I think it definitely creates a little bit of distance. But from my upbringing in Guwahati, from my growing up years, how I see Assamese literature, which doesn't mean only literature in the Assamese language, but how the greater Assamese literature, the body of it, has coexisted with other literatures that have come up back then, started coming up now. And so writing in am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay. So writing in literature in Bodo, poetry in other languages, and Bengali literature, and even a little bit of there's so much in that goes into making Assamese literature a very cosmopolitan body of work. So it is steeped in history, like all literature is, and it is steeped in the native flora, fauna, the rivers, and the river plays a huge role in molding our sensibilities. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, Priya said something already which is resonating with all of us, that we are river people in some way or the other. We are water people. We are essentially, I mean, river, water, sea. And I feel, as I look at my own writing, having grown up in the banks of Brahmaputra, literally on the banks of Brahmaputra, and seen the river in all its moods and furies. So it's not just the beauty, it's also not always the politics, or the condemned aspect of what the society brings to us via the river, via people's lives associated with it. There are a whole lot of people whose lives are all connected to the river. So it's not just sitting at the banks and admiring the water and waves, but a fisherman, his loves, his failures, his sorrows, things that drown, things that surface, things that come into the vortex and become something else. So I think we I don't want to claim this very special space that we in Assam are all very different from the rest. Nothing like that. But I do think that something about the air, the water, the atmosphere, the environment, and politics, of course, plays a big role in what we write. I mean, I was going to read the Six City Bus when my connection dropped off, but you can Google it and find it. The Six City Bus Nilim Kumar. There's an English version. You'll find the poem, but it's always something that moves us along with the movement of water. It's a river that encompasses not just romanticism, but also people's aspirations and how it changes lives in whichever way. Like, of course, I mean, floods in Assam are so well known that people almost don't talk about it. People don't make headlines out of it. The media will probably once or twice write, devastating floods in Assam. That's it. But to actually see land that had been flooded and resurfaced is a surreal experience, which I have seen with my own eyes. To see how people move their homes from one embankment to the other, and yet they want to live. Yes, they want to sing. If they want to dance the bihu and write about love. So I'm sure, I mean, as for the history of writing, and Assam, Nilim would know a little more, and he is very steeped in it. But in my view, I think we all come from that vantage point where life always acts out in various ways for us. It's like the mandalas, you want to call them, like the circle, or to use Priya's Andal imagery of the mandar. So it's eroticism, it's the longing for life, it's love, sorrow, it's the urge to live, which sometimes takes that political voice. And
Sure,
some of my
sure.
poems do take that voice, but that doesn't mean I haven't written love poetry.
So let's ask Nilim also a thought on this. Nilim, I think we are more or less at the brink of running out of time. So Nilim, any last words? Anything which you would like to add to this? Are you there?
Nilim?
No. Okay.
I
think he might have dropped off. Is it? Because his audio is off also and his video too. Nabina, we've got exactly 2 minutes. So do you think that poem which you were talking about could be read in that time?
Yeah, sure. I'll read it very quickly. I have
Okay.
it open here.
May I
Okay.
just make one
Yes,
point
Priya.
before that?
Yes, Priya.
Yeah, it's just that, when we're talking about rivers and staying in a place, it's the sound of the languages you hear. I think that affects your poetry making so much.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The phonetic, the syllabary.
Yeah.
Which affects you. Whether it's my lovely Lafdagiri Bombaya Hindi, which I so miss, or the new sounds of Marathi, and the old sounds of Tamil, these come in, and I think unconsciously in some way affect the vowels and the, your assonance and your rhymes in ways you don't quite know. But please, let's hear the poem.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Thank
So
you.
the poem is called A Six City Bus. A six-city bus keeps roaming through the big city, has trouble breathing. Sometimes it stops by the road and rests, spews black smoke. Sometimes it rattles as though speaking through the windpipe, an unwell city bus. It moves rather slowly through the humdrum of the big city. It's a big city of big rush. It's a big city of horns and overtaking, a big city of glimmering eyes giving come hither looks. In between all this comes rumbling on, blowing black smoke, making way the six-city bus. Passengers get on the bus and promptly disembark. Pissed with the slow speed, they abuse the six-city bus. The driver is 800 years old. The handyman is from 500 years ago. On asking, the driver says his name is Sukafa. The handyman is called Gadapani. They don't have a license. It's a headache for the traffic police, this bus. The bus doesn't ever reach the students to their schools and colleges on time. The temple-going women get late in this bus. Just because it has a lifelong license granted by history, it keeps plying this six-city bus. Commuters get on board by mistake, then immediately disembark. No one wants to ride the bus, which goes off track from future traffic snarls. Only there's this young woman in this mega city. Her name is Kamala Kumari. She alone likes to ride the sick bus, and she comes every day, sits by the window. She doesn't visit any temple. While leaving home for the bus, she always plants a 1,000-year-old cooling kiss on her mother's cheeks. The six-city bus regularly comes and goes all throughout the big city with the twisted trends of history's head. Driver Sukappa, its handyman Gadapani. Driver and Kamala Kauri, they are all historical personages, and Nilim makes a very good metaphor out of the present condition of Assam, because Sukafa, the great Ahom king, was a forebearer of Assamese society, the greater Assam society. And Gadapani or Gadadhar Singh is also another king who's gone down in history, immortalized by his valor, by his opposition to the establishment, the oppressors, to
okay.
the kings who want to completely take the society apart. So
Hmm.
he's actually trying to say, our society will remain a rickety six if we don't give enough value, don't claim our history back.
Hmm.
That of Sukafa, that of Raja Gadapani, and Kamala Kauri, who's also the female character who is Assam in its all embodiment. She's the only one who has trust in these two people. So he kind of like brings it together to show that society can still get back to its
Right.
heritage, to its
Right.
history, to its golden days. We talk about golden Assam. There is an expression in Assamese called Hunor Ahom.
It's
Hunor
more
Ahom.
nostalgia than criticism. Yeah.
Yes. So it's not at all demeaning any historical personage. It's not deriding anybody, or it's just saying that we need to get back to our heritage by
Okay.
looking clearly
Right.
through the
Right.
fog,
Right.
through the miasma that's there. So that way I think
Thank
Nilim
you
is
so much. We are really out of time now. So
it was great.
much as we would have loved to have this carry on, but I'm glad we had a little conversation also. So Nabina, Mr. Thomas, Priya, Nilim, thank you so much for this extraordinary
Thank you,
evening.
Sunil.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you,
You know,
Sunil. Thank
the
you very much. Bye,
absolute.
Nabina. Bye, Priya.
Thank you so much. And I
Bye-bye.
want to thank Sonnet and Tushar for their amazing commitment to
Oh,
bring the
yes.
best
Thank
of
you.
poetry every year into our lives.
Yeah,
Thank you,
All of
Tushar.
you.
thank.
Tushar, we didn't
Absolutely.
see you. Sonnet, you
Yeah.
disappeared, but thank
I,
you.
I thank Sonnet
Mm.
once again. I can hear me. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh.
And catch you later. Stay well. Bye then. Thank you, viewers who are all there. Hope you had a great evening. Thank you, guys.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Thank you. Bye.